Hello everyone. So in this video, we're going to talk about the Jupyter Labs IDE, which uses Jupyter notebooks, as well as can view text files, PDFs. It has a text editor, um, and it has the ability to run a lot of kernels at the same time in parallel, which is kind of unique. I'm not sure if you can do that in Spider. I never tried, but I really like that feature. But one of the coolest things about Jupyter Labs is that it has a really good way of dealing with just general stuff. Like if I wanted to like open up a CSV in Jupyter Labs, it'll come out in tabular form. Or if I wanted to see an image, it'll show up as a picture. Like it does a lot of those things pretty native. We won't get through all of those core features today. I just want to make sure you understand the basics, which is how to get it open, how to create a folder and put files in it, and then just how to navigate just a little bit around the environment. Again, this is either or. If you're taking my courses, this is either or. If you want to use Jupyter or Spider, I would say use the one that works best for you, or another IDE, PyCharms, whatever. But I think this is a good one, and I like that Jupyter Labs, it can be hosted on the web. It can also be installed, but the version I'm showing you is web hosted because that is probably the most common way it's used outside of your personal programs when you're working for a company or something. Some type of hosted system that can be protected. All right, let's get started. Again, I'm pulling up the Conda prompt. Remember, again, if you're watching the videos like in an order, if you watch the Spider video or the installation video, we talked about how to view. At this point, you should know how to view your environments. I'm gonna open up my environment. I suggested that you should be using your class environment. We got Conda activate, and then it's Spider environment. That's my personal environment that I'm using for this. I misspelled it. It's PYDER, not TER. All right, so now we're in there, and now all you got to do is type in Jupyter -lab, and then you'll see that this pops up. But this window gives you a lot of information. Say, scrolling back up, this here gives you how you can get the browser. So like to access the server, open this file in the browser, you go to that file and click on it, or you can copy this link. So if I take this link and copy with the token attached, the token is like the key to make it tie into your session. This can be copied and put in here. So if it doesn't pop up like mine's did, most computers are automatically pop up the Jupyter Lab. You might have to go in and copy this key like this. Hit Control C, and then go open up a browser and post it. And what it would do, it's just going to reopen this browser that I've already opened. But you see, it looks the same. It just reopened the browser that I'm working on. All right, so when it opens up, remember this still is that same folder. This folder and all these things are the same as your home folder, just kind of like in the other one. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So if I open and go to my PC, go to users, Michael, this folder, these two folders are the same. I think it's labeled like 3D objects, Anaconda. The order of things is different because of how it assigns, but you are in this folder. So all the things that's here, I know I have that PDF here. That's the folder that you were actually in. Now with Jupyter, you know how like in the Spider video I talked about changing your work directories. I do it a little different here, especially on my personal computer. I don't mind Jupyter opening and having access to all the stuff on the outside. because what you can do, I can create folders. I know where they're always going to be located there. And then if I really want the files to be somewhere else, I can always download them from Jupyter Lab and move them to somewhere else and let it be stored on this part of the drive. All right, so, but the folder structure and all of that stuff is just like any other folder structure. So if you want to go through, it tells you how long it's been modified, the last time it was modified, and all the difference. You can like click through and see the different folders. What I'm gonna do, we're gonna do what we did last time. I'm gonna create like a tutorial folder here. So I want to create a folder. I'm gonna call it Pi Tutorials. It's a good one. I need to create this folder anyway. So we're going to double click on this, and now this is where I'm at. So now I want to start doing work. All right, so let's talk about this. So here you have the kernels, which if you click on this, it's going to start up a Jupyter notebook. And we'll start with the Jupyter notebook, but the Jupyter notebooks are a very common way of programming. I'm just going to click on one. So what happens is you write some code, right? And once you execute it, it will automatically populate the code at the bottom. So for instance, if I had a is equal to 1, to execute that, you press Shift Enter to get it to run. So what we've done, we ran this one line of code and we stored a variable that's a is equal to 1. All right, so if I were to just say a Shift Enter, you see that it printed out that 1 was stored, right? So if I want to say, b is equal to 2, Shift Enter, and then b Shift Enter, it does 2. So I can say a plus b Shift Enter should be 3, right? So we've executed 5 lines of code. Each of these white lines represent where I enter code in, the grayed outlines, and then where it's white is where it gave me an output. So one thing you can do, this is cool, so you can write codes and you can have different things going on. You can in Jupyter Labs, you can move these around. So say if I want this to be here now and I want my next line to start there, it allows you to do that. You can do that with any of the code blocks. You can move it around and shift it around and then start back working. So like each one of these little code blocks, they all tied to the same output, the same kernel. They're all running on the exact same kernel. We'll talk about that, how you can do that differently. But they can be moved around, shifted, and so what. Now say you wanted the output of this one to be independent. You can see it separately from this, so you don't have to keep scrolling up and down. You can right click on this cell and say that you want to create a view for outputs. So now for this one here, I think that's the one I created it for. Anytime it changes, it'll change down here, but it won't change the other ones. So like right here, if I said a plus b and hit enter, oh, that's not a good example. A plus b plus 1, because they look the same. So it shows 4 here, or a plus b plus 8, it shows 12, but this output isn't changing. What's cool about that is because I might want this output to stay as I work in other kernels, or if any changes I'm making here, maybe I have a table I want to show, the output of it can stay there. So if I did a plus b plus 10 here, as you see, it's going to show 13, and each one of those could have their own output windows. So I can be scrolling down and don't have to worry about having to scroll back up to see what was the output for this number. So this is a nice feature that comes with Jupyter notebooks that I really like. Another feature too is that these kernels can be on independent kernels. So like, let me show you this. So this deletes. So if I take this and use the cut command, that'll delete what was written back to 0. All right, so say I had something here like a is equal to 5 here, okay, and then for this I right click and I want to, let's see, how do I do that? Yeah, it's here. I want a new console for the notebook. So what this does now is that it created a console for what's being right here. So if I go down here and press A and shift enter, you'll see 5 because these are tied together. Now let me make sure if I do it, I'll create a console for this one and I do A. I just want to check something. Okay, it does show the same. So that's for the individual notebooks. So this is how you can kind of do what you were doing in Spider, sort of. It's not the same. So if I say B equal to 2, control enter, and you'll see, then I do B, you'll see 2 up here, but B exists down here as well. So if I do B, it's 2, because even though this is the console window, right, it's the console window for that kernel, so I can have access to communicate. So the reason why I said it's not exactly the same as Spider is because this is actually a Jupyter notebook, so therefore each notebook has its own kernel too. So anytime you create a Jupyter notebook, you automatically have a kernel with you at any given time. This is kind of like a duplicate to some degree. So I'm gonna close this out, and I'm also gonna close out this Jupyter notebook that we actually created here. But that's a way of programming. And shift enter, you can hit the play button to run. Same thing it tells you. So when I hit shift enter, technically I'm pressing play. So when I get here and hit the play button, you're technically, if I said D is equal to 44, if I roll up here and hit play, and then I do D and hit play, it'll do the number. So it's doing exactly what shift enter is doing. This I is to interrupt the kernel. So what that means is that, say I did some kind of loop and it's just running and won't stop. This is a way to actually stop it, or press the I key. And then also, if I'm not mistaken, let's see, D plus E, and then I go up here, come back. No, well, all right, what I was trying to do, I don't see it doing it. But there's a way to, like, when stuff is running and the line can't run, just none of this stuff is complicated. You'll get a star here, and that star means that that kernel is actually doing something. So you'll see a little star. We'll see examples of that. You'll definitely see examples of that if you do more complex programming. All right, another feature I think you should be aware of, and I'm just going to close this out. Not that. I'm going to close this out as well. Oh yeah, let's do this. I'm going to show you one more thing before I do that. Here shows you your folders. Here shows you all the running terminals. So a good habit is, if you're going to close out one of these, consider shutting down the kernel for that. The kernel is kind of where all the action happen, the executions happen. So I tend to, like, shut down this kernel, right? I shut the kernel down, then I close it out. And that's fine. You want to save, discard. I'm not sure if it does it automatically. That's just a habit of me, shutting down kernel. I just don't want a whole bunch of kernels running if I'm not doing anything with them. So you'll have to manage. Every time you create a kernel, you're creating a pointer to a memory location for execution work every time. So you could have a whole bunch of kernels running. You know, it's all about your computer memory and computing capability. But that's something you have to be watchful of. All right, another way, if you want to do it kind of like how Spider has it set up, you'll need to actually create a file. So I'm going back up to the folder. I want to, let's see, hit the plus sign. No, that's not it. Where do you do it? Okay, file. I don't want to launch a new one. I just want to do a new, here we go, new Python file. Okay, so now we got this new Python file. So, you know, they automatically save and come in untitled. This one we're going to change. I want it to be similar. So I think in the last one we called the first file main. So I click rename, right click on it, click rename, and then now we have a Python file. So just like we were doing before, remember in the text editor, you know, we could say A is equal to 5, B is equal to 6, and then D is equal to 44. But it's just a text editor. You can't really run anything, run this lines of code without a kernel, right? So how they'll allow you to create a kernel, get rid of the launcher. If you right click and then again say create console for editor, this create console for editor is how you start up a kernel. I think that's the same across things. So you hit create console. The only one you have is the Spider 3 kernel. It's the only one I have installed. That's what you should have installed when you installed the Python files. Hit select, and now you notice that you'll see something very similar to what you see in Spider, where you have the console text editor on the top, and then you have the main editor, on the bottom. So now if I hit this and hit shift enter, I can run lines of code. I hit shift enter, I can see the results of my code from up here. So everything else at this point is the same as the other. I do numpy, remember we did that, as np, all those imports and stuff, they all still work. So this is kind of how you can work Jupyter Labs, like how we do Spider ID. One difference is that when you plot something, I don't have any plots or anything, but if I were to do a plot, it would just show up in the console. So for instance, let's do that. One of the things you're going to want to import. Another thing I like about Jupyter, you can get keywords help that you spell out things by pressing the tab key. So if I hit tab, it'll pull up all the things that can be put here. I'm looking for, let's see, tab Seaborn. Remember I used that earlier. So once I see it, either I can double click on it or I can press enter as SES. And then I just brought this in just to see a plot, scatter plot of A and B, so there's just one number. And if I hit control enter, oh, I gotta define it. I need to import first, then control enter. Oh, I'm supposed to pass the index if I'm using scalars. I don't know how you use I never just tried to plot like a number. I'm gonna make this change so I don't have to think about it. I'm gonna turn these into a list, 5, 6. It's interesting. 7, 8, because I don't feel like going to look that up. I'm sure it's something small. All right, so I conducted the plot, right? And now I have a scatter plot, 5, 6, here 7, 8, and you notice that I don't have another plot window. I don't have to go to another window. It'll do the plots here. And honestly, say there's something here that was plotted and you want to see it later, you can let's see, copy output to clipboard. Nah, you can't do it on this one, but yeah, anything for this kernel will show up here, and any plots will just show up at the bottom of the line. So that's pretty cool. But this workflow is kind of very similar to the other workflow, because you have your main window here with your coding, you have your kernel here, and then here you have your folder structure, right? You can see all your files, and what else was on that other window? Your plots was here. Now you don't have by default you don't have a general variable explorer, so the way you see your variables in this form, there's a who command. I think it's just who. Yeah, who will show you all of the variables that you have. So I have a variable that's A, B, D, NP, and SNS. So there's these variables: A, B, D, NP, SES. So, and if you want to see their values, I think it's nope. What is it? Is it who? I will have to go and look up my notes. There's a way to see. There's a way to see the variables that they are. I just don't remember the quick command. Give me a second. I'll find it right quick. How to see values. Type in how to see values of variables in Jupyter Labs. I know it's like, it's who something. What is it? Oh, and by the way, there are extensions too. So you can see this stuff easier. I don't have any extensions installed at the moment, so right now I can't use that. So I figured it out. It's who's with the S. If you type in who's, you can see the same information that you saw, the same information that you saw with the environment thing on the side, where it tells you what the type is, the int, it tells you how many in it, and then it tells you what modules that you're using. So this is a class module from the Seaborn, and this is a class module from NumPy. Now there's many ways to I know there are some extensions. I've seen the extensions. There's definitely some extensions that would be able to give you a more GUI based identification of all your variables and stuff, but you don't really get it from here. Let's see. So we talked about how to run this. We talked about how to navigate to different file structures. You know, I'm gonna show you another thing. You can lay this window out any way you want to. Right now they're on top of each other, so you can have them like, if you take the window, see how once you grab it you can shift it. So now I wanted them split side by side, so now you can have, you know, the main here, and then this marks that it's a kernel, the little thing like this console window. You can have them side by side and work. Maybe you have like some type of, I'm just going back to my file structure, maybe there's some type of data we want to see. This is a PDF of a machine learning book that I was reviewing recently. So now I can bring in a PDF, right? I can have the PDF in here and be reading it while programming something. So that's one advantage of using Jupyter Labs, because it allows this. If I had an image of something, you can actually pull it in and look at it as well. So it allows you a lot of a unique capability that you don't get from the other IDE. Also, it allows you to drag cells between Jupyter notebooks, which is interesting. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So say we created this notebook from earlier, right? That's the notebook from earlier. But say I wanted to create a new notebook. Okay, same terminal. So now I have this, no, I got that book from earlier, then I have this new notebook. I'm gonna put this one over here with this one. Okay. Oh, but I don't want to have to retype these. All you got to do is just get it and drag it, and you can automatically drag over any code from another notebook. So you don't have to do the rewrite. So once you drag it over, you just have to hit, you know, Shift Enter, and you're good to go, and you can start. So that's really cool how you can just drag between notebooks and stuff like that. Where the little lines are, if you click that, you can minimize those cells. So say if this was really long, orange means that the code hasn't been executed. So like if I take this off, it knows that nothing is new. So when you start writing like E is equal to 90, this means when you type between them, this tells you that this code hasn't been ran. But what's cool though, say this was really long and you don't want to have to scroll past it. If you click the line, that'll bring up the dots. It'll allow you to minimize this piece of code, and then whenever you're ready to run it, hit enter. Oh, because I didn't restore this stuff. It says D is not defined. So now I run it now, enter. It doesn't give me any issues in this block now, since I actually ran the D line of code. But again, you can minimize it, or you can keep going. You can move it around. Maybe I want this block up here because I want to do this, and then I want to see this block next. That's really cool things you can do as well. All right, I think that covers most of what I wanted to cover in regards to just getting started with Jupyter Labs. Again, it's a preference tool. I will say I will make a video in the future. I don't know when, about the Markdown, the Markdown language, because that's this here, the Markdown file. That's what we normally use when you're trying to write like results or documentation for your experiments and stuff, to be able to give to customers or to turn in your assignments. I'm probably going to want you to use Markdown files to get you to practice on using that instead of Word to set up your assignments, especially when it comes down to me reviewing how you did your experiments or your code. So definitely we'll have just a video specifically for Markdown files. But with Jupyter Labs, this would be the best spot to work on that, work on your Markdown files and all of that type of stuff. Again, that is all I want to cover in this video. I like to do a recap. We talked about the Jupyter Lab notebooks. We showed how to move through the file structure. We talked about the kernels. We talked about how to create a py file. We talked about how to create Jupyter notebooks, and you notice that you can move we went through the cells and how you can move the cells around, how you can create output windows, and how you can start up a kernel from a Python script. Those are kind of like the core things. If you can do those things, everything else will come as you play with it, as you keep pecking around with the IDE. Nothing beats experience in this world. Like practice and experience is how you get better. Again, thank you for listening, and I hope this video was helpful, and take care of yourself.